Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to 5v5 Live on a Friday.
On a Friday. Happy Friday, everybody.
There you go. Eric, that is you. Eric Kummel. I'm at Hempstead. Today we're going to obviously talk a little bit about League, mostly about League.
Mostly.
We're going to get to a little bit of Hearthstone later.
Big expansion.
A little bit of something different.
Big expansion the other day. A lot of people hyped. Some not hyped because, you know, people like to rip on Hearthstone, but...
It's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
To be fair, they have made some questionable decisions in the past about, losing the value of skill in these games just because it's so random.
Yeah,
but I feel like this one kind of takes that away a little bit.
Yeah, I think they've kind of started to get back on track. They've listened to the people's concerns.
What? You should never listen to the people. There's too many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
All right. First off, yesterday in the EU LCS was an interesting day.
It was spicy.
It was very spicy.
Spicy day.
If you missed it, everyone was talking about G2 and Fnatic being the best two teams in Europe. And of course, lo and behold, G2 goes and loses to Roccat in 3 games. And then Fnatic loses to NiP in 2 games.
Wow.
Wow.
Who
would have thought?
I was actually more surprised with the G2 one than the Fnatic one. I mean, obviously both these teams were probably just waiting to play each other this weekend. They might have even forgotten they had games before that. So maybe they even showed up late to the stage, I don't know. But G2, it looked like they were going to get back on track eventually. The NiP and Fnatic one, it was just like, all right, Fnatic clearly did not show up. But you're getting 2-0'd by NiP. Clearly their head wasn't fully in there. And you saw how hyped the NiP guys were, which is...
A little excited.
It's exciting, but also a little sad. Just like an almost meaningless game for Fnatic and G2, really, especially now that they both lost. But I mean, it's something to be cheered about for NiP. But I was more surprised with G2 just because they got into that third decisive game and they got out ahead early, and it looked like, all right, G2's just kind of messing around, now they're going to win. But then they lost because Trick likes to wander off. He got lost a few times, I think.
He definitely does wander off. It was definitely questionable, especially early on in the final game, Game 3. Trick on Jarvan just kind of waltzes into their jungle by himself. I think it was at level 3. His top lane was shoved all the way in. His mid lane was shoved all the way in. But he goes and tries to take Wraiths and put down a deep ward, and he just dies to Warwick.
Yeah, and I don't want to bring rehash issues or panic over a loss like this for G2. But yeah, that kind of miscommunication is what had them struggling early on in this split. Trick just kind of not on the same page at all with his solo laners. But all in all, I don't think either of these series really means anything. I think a lot of the people were way overreacting, like casters, some of the people it was like, oh my God, Roccat doesn't bend a knee to anyone. And it was like, okay. I even heard someone was saying they're disappointing that they're not going to see Roccat in the playoffs. I'm not disappointed about not seeing them in the playoffs just because they beat G2 and beat Fnatic earlier. They barely won any other games.
Yeah, I'm not overly upset. I'll get over it in time.
You'll need at least a couple weeks, but yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's all that big of a deal. I mean, G2 did have something on the line going into that series because technically they still had a shot at the first seed if Fnatic got 2-0'd by NiP. Which apparently they did.
As everyone predicted, of course.
Right, but I'm sure going into it, they're like, whatever, Fnatic's going to beat NiP, and we're just going to prepare for the next game, which is, I guess also meaningless, but you're trying to beat Fnatic going into the playoffs to send a message to them. So I'm sure both teams were just like, I don't care about Roccat or NiP. I'm going to get ready for the big matchup for potentially a finals preview.
Yeah, so now that series doesn't actually matter for either team. Are they actually? How much do they actually show? Are they just going to go?
You think it's going to be some of those super high kill meme games?
Yeah, it might be. Maybe just go for an ARAM. I don't know. It is basically meaningless, and I'm sure they don't want to tip too much of their hand because they're probably already looking towards finals, which might be a mistake, overlooking some of the other teams. But it'd be interesting to see how try-hard both teams go.
Yeah, I know H2K had that issue a couple of years ago where there was a game that meant nothing, but probably was like, no, we're going to play this out. I think they were facing, I think it was Splice, and Splice was picking all this troll stuff, and H2K was just like, no, we're just going to take it to you. Everyone
wasn't happy with H2K saying they weren't having any fun.
Yeah, what are you doing?
There was a great interview with Jankos saying, coach told me I have to play serious or I'll get benched or something like that. Which is very funny. Janko's a very funny man.
He is fun. Personality. So we'll see what happens on tomorrow, I guess, is that game.
Yeah.
Hopefully they play it legit, but I don't think they're going to show their hands too much going to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they'll play super meta stuff, nothing out of the ordinary, and just kind of go through the motions and see. But yeah, I don't expect them to show any other maybe pocket picks. I'm sure Reckless is sitting on some weird ADs that he might use in the playoffs. I don't think you're going to see anything like that in that 3-game set.
No, don't expect any more Azir. None of that stuff coming from
That's too bad. I like Azir.
Azir is pretty interesting. Too bad he lost, so it sucks.
That's
0-1 in the EU LCS.
Never play it again.
No, that's right. But this mid lane matchup is kind of cool. Caps against Perks. It's two guys who are probably considered the top 2 right now, I would say, in Europe. And for me, the one stat that really jumps out there is the first blood percentage. But that's also largely because Caps likes to roam around a bit and help out with that. But also Broxa, his mid lane proximity is a bit higher than Trix.
Yeah, I feel like pretty often Perks is kind of left on an island in that mid lane, and he does pretty well for the most part. You look at that CS difference, he's almost never behind CS-wise in that lane, and he usually plays pretty carefully because he knows he's not getting that much jungle attention, and he's basically just, he likes to waste opposing junglers' time just playing so safe back there. But yeah, I think Caps is more aggressive and will be more aggressive in that matchup when they play each other, so it's going to be an interesting one.
I'm definitely intrigued by it. Maybe not so much Saturday anymore, because again, there's literally 0 on the line, except for maybe some bragging rights. But so
maybe you get in the opponent's head.
That's it.
Tilt them before you actually play the real best stuff.
I like it.
I don't think either team will get tilted, though.
I mean, maybe you could bring out a pocket pick, and later on, if they meet in the playoffs, you force a ban or something.
Yeah, maybe that's what you play some weird stuff and scare them, and then they're like, I can't believe they actually banned that. I have no idea. I didn't think they would ban Master Yi mid.
Maybe that's the game plan.
That's what I would do.
I like that. So do you think this will be the finals?
Unless H2K finally somehow showcases that potential, to use the scary word, that's been around them for a while. I realize getting 4th place in Worlds, semis in Worlds, is probably pretty much reaching their potential. You're not going to, I don't think anyone would expect them to ever get to the finals or anything like that. So maybe that's a little harsh to say they've never reached their potential, but at least domestically they've kind of come up short in a lot of these playoff runs. So maybe if they can, they look pretty good now. They 2-0'd Mysterious Monkeys. They didn't keep up the meme of the upsets, so maybe their heads are finally on straight.
Disappointing. Would have liked to see another upset.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting swept by Fnatic is not reaching their potential. So
yes,
hopefully they do a little better than that. But otherwise, it looks like Fnatic G2 in the finals.
Which, don't get me wrong, that'll be a great series.
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
I just hope these other ones are either competitive or not total, I don't want to say garbage, but I'm going to say garbage between some of these other middle tier teams.
Yeah, I think the first round will be pretty terrible. But
those make for the most exciting games.
That's okay.
That's what NA used to be pretty much every game.
That's true. That is very true. By the way, if you have any questions, send them our way. Put them in that chat, and we will get to them once we ramble on through all of our topics here. But
we promise.
We will get to them. He promises.
Yeah.
So interesting news today. I found this pretty funny. On Reddit, there was a post about the soccer player or football if you're from Europe. Don't want to offend anybody. I know everyone gets triggered by that.
Way to cover every ground.
That's right. A guy named Edgar Davids, who looks exactly like striker Lucian, which is a skin, actually came out and got, he was talking to Riot. There it is. I gotta say the resemblance is...
That is actually insane. That's the exact same model of goggles. Like, there's no way that skin wasn't modeled off this guy, because they probably called him and asked him what make his goggles are.
Yeah.
That is insane.
There's just no way this is a coincidence. It's like, excuse me, is that based off of me?
Yes.
No, sir. It's just, looks exactly like you.
And, if they did that, they didn't even try and hide it. They made it a soccer skin. You could have you could have at least made it, not a soccer skin. Make him a galactic defender or something. But they're like, nope, striker Lucian, we based it off a guy who plays soccer or football.
That's pretty clever. Good cover again. Yeah. But Edgar Davids is going to get all the money that skin made. So I guess I gave him $10 because I have that skin.
Well, good for you.
There you go, Edgar Davids. You enjoy that.
I want to know how much money he's actually going to get from that.
I would like to know too.
I'd like to know how much money they make from those skins.
Yeah. Riot can make a skin based on me if they want to, and I'll get paid
It'd be
for
a pretty boring skin, I feel like.
That's not very nice at all. I'm a little offended.
We got to look into some of these other skins, because there's probably more people out there who don't even know that it was based off them.
Well, I mean, so many of the dances and stuff are based off of pop culture and events.
They probably had to get something.
I'm sure they have somewhat rights, or would have asked, hey, can we steal your patented dance move?
Yeah.
Like for Ezreal doing the Beyonce dance.
Yeah.
There's no way that that's just okay.
And I know Beyonce plays a lot of League of Legends, so she's probably seen it all the time.
That's right.
But I mean, Riot usually tries to avoid any copyright issues by putting, like they'll put something like that King Rammus one you had mentioned before, where it's just that's Bowser, but
what?
No, it's King Rammus, and they try and get around stuff like that. I know people were calling out for Pikachu Kennen for so long, and then I don't know. There was like that superhero Kennen skin, which is not really Pikachu, but it's close. They're walking a fine line, and I guess they crossed it with Striker Lucian.
There's still Sailor Moon Lux and all this kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's like looking at the no-name brand Halloween costumes, where you see like a Walking Dead costume, but they call it like zombie fighter costume. Like, you know, it's a ripoff. But
yeah, you 100% know it's a ripoff. But yeah, the Bowser one cracks me up. King Rammus, like it's Rammus, but you just colored him completely to look like Bowser.
But he's a king.
Well, Bowser is a king.
He's a king of the Mushroom Kingdom.
It's very questionable. I'm surprised that Nintendo hasn't been like, what are you doing? At least that skin's retired now.
Yeah, you had to be pretty OG to get it.
Yeah, Edgar David is still roaming the rift, so.
For now. So are they going to get rid of that skin, or he gets every ounce of money from it?
He gets all the money, and they should rename it Edgar Davids.
Rename the whole character.
Yeah, exactly. Lucian is now Edgar. Kind of catchy.
That sounds way cooler, to be honest.
It's not bad. I'm kind of down with it.
Yeah.
That was fun. Something else that's been interesting, I found out the other day that the promotion tournament is still going on for North America.
Yeah, which it's basically a play-in to have fun, I guess, because next year they're doing franchising and the entire league is going to change. Even the teams who win their matches, they could very well not be in the tournament.
Yeah.
Or the league next year. So I guess it's just for fun, because these guys are going to have a lot of time off. So, you know, showcase what you can do, and maybe you can stay on a team.
I guess it's kind of like a tryout in a way, where you're like, hey, I can do good things.
That's a pretty good selling point.
Yeah, there you go. But if you're actually playing these games and you win the tournament, usually you would get up and be like, oh my God, we're in the NALCS. At this point, if I was to win, I would turn to my coach and be like, do we have enough money to stay in the league? And then he'd be like,
we're going to get rid of this whole roster.
You're not on a team anymore. And then you'd start crying.
Yeah, so you can at least celebrate that you're in the NALCS for like a couple months. Yeah. You're like, wow, guys, let's really get down and start grinding for next split. And then, yeah, you realize, the team doesn't have enough. Or we were bought out by this team and they want a whole new roster. Thanks for getting us in, guys.
I'm curious, because teams like GCU and EU United are the teams that are going up against Phoenix One and Team Liquid in this tournament. And they've got some pretty big name players, so they must have some decent money going into it. And I don't know if they would bring in a coach like Loco Doco and these players like Mad Life and such if they don't have enough money. But then again, I haven't heard of Gold Coin United until they bought this NA team.
Yeah, and like a team like Liquid, I feel like they could lose every single game they play in the promotion tournament, and they're almost certainly still going to be back in the NALCS next year. Definitely more so than Gold Coin United. So
even Phoenix One.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's basically an audition for a lot of these players, which means maybe they're not thinking about their team first in a lot of these. They're just saying, I don't really care if we lose the game as long as I look good. Obviously, they're probably not actually thinking like that. But if I was in their shoes, that's how I'd be thinking.
Yeah, why is this tournament a thing? This doesn't make any sense. You're playing for literal nothing.
You're playing for...
That's the theme of today.
Nothing?
Literal nothing, yeah.
What about figurative nothing?
I guess.
A little different. All right.
I don't really want to get into the details of figurative
that's how
literal.
we'll finish up the show, just talking about nothing. The definition of nothing.
If you have any questions about nothing, let us know too, and we'll get to
something.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
We mentioned it a little bit yesterday, but this whole Olympics thing in esports, apparently they're taking a bid to make esports a thing in the Paris 2024 Olympics. It's a long way away. But basically, they're just going to talk about it and be like, we don't want to rule anything out yet. So we want to see if this is an actual option for the younger generation. But I'm not sold that, the old school IOC and a lot of Olympic viewers are going to be thrilled with this.
Yeah, and I don't know how much information, like, do they have any specialists on the IOC that would actually know anything about esports? I feel like they definitely don't at the moment. So whatever research or however they're looking into it has got to be outside of their committee. So it is definitely interesting, though, that they're even considering it or even talking about it. That alone is a pretty huge step for the entire scene.
It's going to be interesting. It's just, for me, it's hard to imagine a world in which you're watching swimming, you're watching beach volleyball, you're watching all these things, and then up next, some League of Legends, everybody. Or some Counter-Strike, where in a world where, world peace is an objective, we're playing terrorists versus counter-terrorists on Counter-Strike Go.
Yeah,
That's a little spicy.
That would be a pretty huge issue. Especially, I didn't even think of that, especially with all these different countries together. That would be very controversial, and I think there'd be
weird.
A lot of angry letters. Do people still write letters?
I don't. Emails, probably?
Emails, yeah. Angry emails about
there you go.
Showcasing people shooting each other. And yes, the word terrorist is a touchy subject. So
it is.
At least League of Legends is more PG.
Unless you're playing Ziggs. Yeah. But that's besides
Ziggs is banned at the Olympics.
But yeah, I mean, just there would be parents being like, my 5-year-old son was watching this, and then you turn on this gun game. It's like, all right, relax. It's just, but anyways, it's an interesting thing to try to make happen. Maybe CS:GO wouldn't be allowed simply because it's too violent or it is war. So you don't want at the Olympics to do a thing on who's best at war. That's shouldn't probably be a medal event. Look, we got gold.
I don't think it should be any kind of event. No, right. So maybe stick to the less violent, more cartoony games to start. But yeah, they're gonna have something before it goes right into all these computer games. I think you kind of talked about this yesterday, bringing in chess or something beforehand, something to showcase mental fortitude and prowess more than just physical stuff, because right now almost everything is physical.
Yeah,
in the Olympics, as it probably should be.
Well, that's what it was when it first came out. It was like tug of war and all this stuff. So
by the way, that should be back in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Tug of war.
I'm with you. That's a great event.
Yeah.
And dodgeball.
Nah.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
What if, to make it physical, you had to, it's like who can go the longest playing League of Legends?
That's the whole event?
That's it.
You're not actually just playing, you're just sitting there farming creeps.
Who can survive the longest, yeah. Then it's physical. That's what you want, right? IOC?
I mean, only if you're like standing on one leg while you play the whole time or something.
Well, that's the proposal.
Maybe they could add something like that to it. I don't think they ever would, because it would be completely ridiculous. But
I feel like at some point, though, this will make strides. It might not be 2024, but the way esports has been growing lately, I can imagine a world where League or Dota or whatever is an actual event.
I think just having it on like the brand that is the Olympics would be a little jarring for a lot of people. Maybe,
it would be very jarring.
Maybe they again need to develop some international competition, country competition, where they're organizing teams for across all esports. I know League of Legends has never really gotten part of that, so maybe they start doing that across all these other things, and then they might just have a esports Olympics type thing where you have all your different countries representing a bunch of different games. That could be kind of cool.
You're talking about the E-Olympics, of course.
Yeah.
You just got to throw an E in front of it, and you're good to go.
Lowercase e. Always a lowercase e.
Yeah, exactly. But I know for China, I forget exactly what their event is called, but in 2022 they have like their own games, and they threw esports into it. So that's pretty big news.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, 2022 China Games. Tune in for some esports.
It's probably some Mario speedrunning. Those are always pretty interesting. It
is interesting.
Yeah.
So watch out for that. But I'm intrigued to see what they say. I'm sure it's going to be no for 2024. But they might be like, we'll think about it.
Yeah, even if they're thinking about it, that's progress.
That is progress. All right, it's time. Ready to talk some Hearthstone?
I'm ready.
New expansion, Knights of the Frozen Throne. I keep getting it confused and saying Tomb, but it's not Tomb, even though that's a lot cooler. Frozen Throne is kind of...
Why is a throne? A throne is definitely cooler.
Than a tomb?
A tomb, you're dead. A throne, you're like a king.
I disagree.
You'd rather be dead than a king.
No, but I think a tomb is cooler than a chair.
You're very wrong.
Anyways, interesting expansion where the whole theme is kind of like Death Knights, and you can replace your character with someone else who has a new hero power. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think pretty much all the Death Knights were pretty interesting. They're all really unique, and you can basically completely change your play style of whatever class you're playing. I think some are way cooler than the others. The Druid one, I was like, that is pretty lame. You get like 3 attack or 3 armor with your new hero power. You summon a couple minions. The other ones seem way cooler and have these unique interactions. Druid just kind of seems a little boring. And of course, that's the only one I opened in a pack. So
there you go.
Pretty lame.
So I guess before we get into it, the funnest part, or the worst part, depending on your luck, is the pack opening day, where you're like, oh
very
my
stressful.
Goodness, give me those legendaries, and then you get 3 and 67 something packs like I did, and get very upset.
3 good ones though, right?
3 okay ones, I guess. I got the Lich King. Can't complain too much.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a staple in pretty much every deck.
See, yeah, that's
control
true.
deck.
It's a pretty awesome card.
The
scary thing with the packs is, especially when they give you some free ones ahead of time, you're looking in your opening collection for like 3 weeks where it's like open mid-August, and you're just like, oh boy, I get something good in those. And then the first 3 you open, all you have is a rare, and you're like, huh.
And well, somehow you still get duplicates from your comments.
Yeah, this isn't going so well, but no. It is hard early on unless you cash out a whole whack of money. It's hard to like participate in all this cool deck building when you only have like 10 or 20 packs you can open, and then you're like, okay, so I can basically add 1 or 2 cards to decks I already have, because you can't really make a whole new deck. But a lot of the cards, people have mentioned that there's more cards you don't know if they're going to be great or they're going to suck. They're kind of in that middle ground. That's what a lot of people have been talking about, and I think that's pretty true. I think there's only 1 card that has the dreaded no text. Those plain, it's just a penguin. You know,
it's a beast though.
0 cost 1/1 beast. So that's a staple in every deck, first of all. But it's cool that basically every other card has some kind of interaction.
It is cool. Yeah, everything has some flavor text to it, even though it might be lifesteal, which already exists, as we've discussed before. Yeah. But that's okay. Trying to get
something.
Yeah. One card I want to talk about a little bit is this Priest Legendary, the Benedictus, which basically, when you play it, it's a battle cry to get every card in your opponent's deck into yours. And at first I was like, that sounds pretty good.
Absolutely insane.
I'm pretty sure it's terrible. Because I played it like once, and I'm like, all right, I'm facing Jade Druid, now I have a bunch of useless cards in my deck, and I really want my removal, but you can't draw it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's so, like, it'd be impossible to climb with it because it's so dependent on what class you're facing. And yeah, if you're facing Pirate Warrior or Zulak, it's like, I don't want any of these cards. No. They're all terrible. And now I have 25 of them to sift through. So yeah, when I initially saw that card, I was like, this is the most busted card in the history of the game. But now I'm like, oh, it's not very good actually. And 7 costs, and it's a 4/6, so the stats are pretty bad. It's a little too RNG, because even in arena, maybe actually it'd be good in arena, unless the other person's deck is terrible. I think it's better in arena than constructed, but it's not like you're ever going to fatigue in arena, so it's probably not even good there. I take that back. The card's bad.
All right, very good. Yeah. Good seal of, what's the opposite of approval?
Disapproval.
There it is.
Disapproval.
Seal of disapproval.
Nice. Just throw a dis in front.
Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah, I don't think it's very good. Especially if you're doing a mirror matchup and the game goes on for probably a literal hour.
Yeah.
That would be miserable.
Oh my god.
I would be very upset. So what have you been playing? You have any ideas of like what's good? I know it's really early. You probably don't want to craft anything just yet either, because it's the meta will set in like a week or 2.
I think what's going to be really broken is definitely Paladin, specifically with all this, that 1 new card, the 1 cost 1/1 Divide Shield Taunt, I think is just going to, first of all, it's going to play in any kind of Paladin deck, but now they've gotten a lot of good cards, like that 4 cost, I think it's a 3/2, Charge with Lifesteal, stuff like that. I think Hand Buff Paladin is going to be pretty popular now going forward, because just those cards get so powerful when they're buffed up, and And then maybe just an aggro paladin deck that's just all divine shields running at your face, which is unbelievably annoying. I think Blood Knight is going to be back in the meta, just for paladin.
That's interesting. Yeah, that card's been gone for a while, and it used to tilt me a lot in Arena. Hated that thing.
It's pretty brutal when someone coins that out on you in Arena. You're like,
goodbye,
yeah, great
Argent
game.
Squire.
Great game. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of frustrating paladin stuff going on. And I think Warlock, they got a lot of sweet cards.
A lot of removal.
Yeah, that Defile card is amazing. And I believe it's a Dreadlord at the end of your turn, deals 1 damage to all the enemies. I think like something like Handlock or just a Control Warlock, because that class was pretty dead last expansion.
Yeah, I've seen it played quite a bit, that Warlock deck.
Yeah.
I think Show was playing it today, and I'm like, oh, that looks pretty solid. I'm going to try it out later.
Yeah, I think Warlock and Paladin are going to be pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm happy it's shifting back to Control because, man, playing against Pirate Warrior and the stupid Rogue quest was very annoying. But the problem is, once everyone starts figuring out these new Control decks, I know it's going to shift back to these stupid aggro decks, and I'm going to die on turn 5, the Pirate Warrior again. It's going to happen, and it's very upsetting because I really do enjoy like trying to figure things out, what to do one turn, plan ahead for the next one, control-wise, and it's just like, I lost because he played on curve.
Yeah, it's much more fun to like actually think about what you're going to do in a turn as opposed to just dumping your whole hand in any order and then just clicking on the person's face and being like, wow,
Smork.
Get wrecked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not exactly that fun. But there are a lot of wave clear and just control cards that almost every class is getting. Even Hunter. They seem to really want Hunter to be played not face, to somehow incorporate it, to somehow become a control class, especially with that new Poison Shot card. That card is really interesting, where you deal 2 damage to a minion and make it poisonous. That's really interesting. You can use it just to kill a minion or put it on one of your own guys, and then you've got a nice control going on. But I think for that Hunter to be control, you really got to roll Dinomancy.
Oh,
you got to roll that beautiful card.
Oh.
I guess it's... Now you got the Death Hunter.
Death
Knight
Hunter.
Rexar.
Yeah, that's a good card, by the way.
Yeah.
With those zombie beasts. Have you seen the thing? That's what they're called, man.
Is there that many M's? I heard 4 or 5 M's there. With these.
Yeah. Of course. That's what it says in the text.
Oh, okay.
Look it up. But I saw on a stream today, someone played like a 8-mana fledgling that was like 6/6 with stealth. That sounds
That'll
good.
do it. That'll do it.
I'm intrigued by that. And it also deals 2 damage to all enemy minions when you play Rexar. So that's good.
Yeah, I think overall this expansion, it's going to be... I feel like Ungoro, it took like not even 2 weeks for people to be
I think it was like 5 days.
It was like, all right, this is how you play most of these decks. I think it's going to take a lot longer for this expansion for people to fully figure out like what Death Knight class cards are actually good, and just there's a lot of different ways you can play the same class, really. Like Paladin has basically 3 totally different decks you could run with, so it's going to be interesting, and it's going to take a lot longer for the meta to settle down, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. This one definitely seems a bit more confusing in terms of what to be played. There's some interesting cards, new dynamics, so it'll take a little bit. Hopefully it takes a while and it keeps changing, because Ungoro got stale very quickly for me.
Yeah, and then Constructed quickly becomes...
Evolved Shaman and Jade Druid.
Very painful to play, yes. And they made one card specifically to just try and get rid of Jade Druid.
Yeah, which is always, there's a problem when that happens.
Yeah.
All right, it's question time.
It's question time.
If you have any questions, we've already got some lined up, but keep them coming and we will answer them to the best of our abilities.
Which is very, very adequate.
Very good. Yeah. First question from Dylan Costello. What do you guys think about Caps being called Baby Faker? Eric?
I guess it's fine. I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of guys who have kind of been Baby Faker, and basically, I mean, you looked at Febivin before when he 1v1'd him a couple times, then he kind of got that title, but I mean, when you're the best ever, basically, you get comparisons drawn to you anytime there's an up-and-coming young guy who you're like, oh, maybe he'll be like or it's West Faker, that's what Bjergsen's been for basically his whole career. I don't really like the comparisons like that. Just let them be their own person. Caps is Caps. Come up with like a cool nickname for him that's not someone else's nickname with a baby in front.
It's not overly creative.
Yeah.
It's saying, hey, you're good at mid, and Faker's good at mid, but you're not as good as Faker.
So you're a baby.
That's it.
Oh,
Pretty good logic right there.
I see how they got there.
Yeah, it's not that hard to come across. Maybe they could call him like good mid, because that's basically what they're saying. It's just,
or I like even just claps. It's a lot better when he's clapping.
That is good. Wow.
People just add one letter and look at that.
That should be a thing in Twitch chat. They would eat that up.
I'm sure it is, isn't it? I feel like I've read that.
Well, then you just stole it. You owe someone a lot of money.
Yeah. It's probably Edgar.
It's probably Edgar Davids. That's it. He's making a lot of cash.
Yeah,
wow.
Jeez.
Next thing you know, all these skins are gonna be. He's just gonna be like, wow, Sona. Yeah, that's me.
That Thresh skin looks a lot like me.
Who knows? Maybe again, we referenced Arya yesterday. Edgar Davids is actually. Arya can take on many faces.
A faceless man. I see. Okay.
Just a theory. Just a thought. Who's the second and third best mid in the world? Do you have any opinions on that? I'm assuming that means that Faker is first. But I think you can throw some guys in there like Pawn or Crown. Even BDD might be in that conversation too. He's had a great split, but he might be a bit young still to take over that.
Yeah, I mean, he's put up some pretty insane numbers this split, especially recently in Korea. So are all of them Korean? Top three?
Probably. But I guess you
can't throw in
do you dare throw in
I'm not even going to say it. Don't say it.
Jensen?
No. I think it probably is top three Koreans.
Yeah, I would imagine it is. Anyone in Europe? Probably not this split. Like, there are some good European mid laners, but I don't think anyone cracks that list.
No, I don't think so.
Probably not even top 5.
No. The best two are outside of there, probably Jensen and Burger King. But I just want to see Worlds if Jensen says he's going to clap people again. And then, because last year he said he was going to clap Faker, and didn't go too well.
No. Maybe Cap should clap Faker.
Nah, a lot of clapping going on.
A lot of clapping. There you go. Liam points out to us that there is shooting events in the Olympics already. Technically, they do have. What is the event called?
They've got like the biathlon, I think.
Yeah. The only problem with that
shooting
is that
people,
and you're not labeled terrorist. Also, which I think is a big.
Anytime there's going to be like a big graphic that pops up and says like terrorists win, it's like that would probably deter a lot of people.
Yeah, they should just change it to offense and defense or something.
Yes,
and make it friendly.
Yeah, the main thing with the biathlon is you're shooting targets, not. I realize Counter-Strike's a video game, but it would be a touchy subject.
Just change the bullets to paint gun, paintball, and
just
call
play
them offense and
Splatoon.
defense.
Just play Splatoon.
Splatoon, there.
Competitive Splatoon at the Olympics.
Remember the trailer when it first came out? It's a bunch of people in an arena being like, "I painted you," and it's
pretty hype.
Yeah. Wow, look at that.
Very in sync.
Yeah. A Hope wants to know, what do you guys think of TSM at Worlds? We've touched on this a little bit because in the past it's just been disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Oh, they'll get out of groups. They did not, which is basically the theme. But I think this year they've got a good chance of getting out of groups.
Yeah, I watched the most recent TSM Legends episode, and Doublelift was on there talking about it getting close to Worlds, and he's scared. Scared was the word he used about not performing well at Worlds or being one of the main reasons why his team can't excel there. So I think he feels like he has a lot to prove. I don't really think he was that bad last year at Worlds, but I think the team as a whole, it's the exact same roster that was there last year. I think they're going to be coming back with a vengeance, and I would be surprised if they didn't get out of groups. Beyond that, I don't know about anything beyond that, but I think they should be able to get out of groups.
Yeah, I mean, look, Worlds is a good tournament, and getting out of groups is an accomplishment in its own right. And then once you hit the quarterfinals, you're going to run into some solid international teams. And if you have to move on, you have to prove that you're a top 4 team in the world, basically. But even if you get lucky and you draw up against not LMQ.
That would be very lucky.
That would be they don't even exist. Yeah. Disqualified.
Wow, a bye.
Flash Wolves or something. It's just, Flash Wolves are a solid team.
Yeah, and they're kind of the team that
you need to get.
Everyone says they're like, oh, maybe hopefully you get Flash Wolves, and then teams lose to them, and you're like, wow, you lost to Flash Wolves, but no, they're actually
they're
a
the
really
SKT
solid team.
Too.
Yeah, so it is still a lot of luck with the draw, and then who you get in the quarterfinal. getting a top seed out of groups that's a whole nother story because, again, we've said it multiple times, any seeds, they're not going to have the best time when it comes for drawing the group stages, I imagine.
No, the dream is to dodge any Korean teams.
Good luck.
I mean, there's a chance.
Yeah,
there's a chance.
Yeah.
But that would be ideal for TSM, obviously. But even if not, and you get like the 3rd ranked Korean team, and then you finish probably not first, but like 2nd or something, and you make it out of groups, that's respectable. That's what I expect from them.
Yeah, and I feel like China is a little bit of a question mark about how well they'll actually do in the group stage. So if they get some of those teams in their group, then maybe they'll be able to actually do really well against them. I feel like they're a little shrouded what's going on. They always seem to be heading in an international competition with the whole sandbagging memes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
Fair enough. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but again, I think TSM should get out of groups. So every year, and regret it.
And sometimes they do.
And most times they don't. All right. Wesley Tennyson wants to know, what do you think is the next esport that is less known now but could really take off someday soon? You have any thoughts on that, Eric? You have any games that are on the up and up?
Not really off the top of my head. I mean, there seems to be a bunch of different card games now that are starting to not really rival Hearthstone yet, but as people are getting upset with the total RNG involved in that game, I think how this expansion goes going forward is going to play a large role in seeing it stay popular because, there's these Gwent games, there's the Elder Scrolls online card game. I think maybe those could come up there, but again, card games for esports as a whole are kind of toxic because there is that huge random aspect, but we'll see what Overwatch does too.
Yeah, Overwatch is definitely interesting with the whole league coming out and teams are pitching in a lot of money. I think there are a couple of games maybe. I know Splatoon was kind of a joke, but there's been talks about Nintendo making this game specifically to turn it into an esport, so we'll see if that ever makes tracks. But in the past, Nintendo hasn't really put in a ton of effort into making their games esport friendly, like Smash. They haven't really gone all out for that at all.
That's what's even more impressive, that it's so popular as a fighting game. That's basically without any help from Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's just solely the community and players putting in that effort to keep that scene going.
Yeah, and then keep an eye on Battlegrounds too, because I know
that's true.
Players are starting to get signed on for like teams and squads, and you could see that maybe turn into a thing because that game is like super hard to play strategically.
Yeah,
and I think that could maybe turn into something too, especially with all the big streamers playing it, getting a lot of attention. I know the first like invitational is coming up where there are squads forming to take on each other. So the game's still new and kind of still working out its flaws, but I think that could make some noise too.
Yeah, it's really difficult to say because there's been a lot of games that have kind of been built up like, oh, they're going to be the next big thing, and then they fall down pretty quickly. Like Heroes of the Storm had a lot of hype, and not a great.
And now it does not have a lot of hype.
It does not have a lot of hype. Not a lot of people playing at all. But I think in general, people have kind of stopped with MOBAs just because they're not competing with League and Dota. So I think, you got to look at different other styles of games to get into the scene.
All right. I think we'll see. It's not easy to get into the whole esports.
No, it takes a while to
the league
build
took
a
long time too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And Riot Games put a lot of effort into making it that level.
Yeah.
So Liar's Iron, Learseron. I probably screwed it up. Probably
even know
multiple times.
Yeah.
What rank are you guys on League? He wants to know. Calling us out.
Ooh.
You're a better player.
Of course I am. Right now I'm hanging out in Plat 5, the dream. I used to be better.
Yeah.
I used to
Tell them what you used to be. Go on.
I used to be in Diamond, but then, I played a little less frequently and everyone else got better. That's no fun.
No.
I like just beating up on people, but right now I'm in Plat.
That's respectable. Yeah. Back in my university days, I was chilling in Plat too.
In your prime?
In my prime. I'm old, so.
Yeah, you are old.
65,
I believe
I know.
You just turned. Yeah,
my skills are deteriorating, so. But now I think I'm chilling in Gold 1. I don't play as much either.
Yeah.
Just dabbling, you know.
You know, ranked can be a very dangerous place to be in the dark. And yeah, it's still fun.
Yeah, we do it from time to time.
Yeah, we lose most games.
We lose a lot of games. It's I don't know. Probably shouldn't be talking about League. Don't listen to us because we lose. Wesley Brown wants to know, for EU playoffs, I see them as lackluster matchups. Thoughts about this? I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. The first round is going to be awful. You can quote me on that if you want to. I'm not excited whatsoever.
I just wrote it down.
Did you? Wow.
Awful.
I think it's turning up to be like Misfits against Unicorns and then Splice against G2 or something.
Now,
I don't
to be
see
fair,
anything happen.
Misfits and Unicorns could be some absolutely bonkers games.
Oh, they'll be exciting, but they'll be dirty. Like, not clean is what dirty means.
I like the dirty games, you know. Get down and dirty, some 30-kill games at 30 minutes, you know. But yeah, basically, especially right before Worlds, seeing games like that, assuming you do, it's not exactly reassuring for a region going forward. So, I mean, everyone's going to be paying attention to G2 and Fnatic. But if somehow that final doesn't come to fruition, then that's going to be a really sad EU playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, H2K against either of those teams would be okay too. It wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see any other options, to be honest with you. I can't picture it. Maybe Misfits goes on a run because they looked okay earlier in the split, but they haven't been able to learn how to play past 20 minutes in the past month. So
yeah, they still really struggle with closing out games, and teams like G2 and Fnatic are pretty good at stalling out games. So
that's right.
Good luck, Misfits.
I don't see it happening.
No.
So not excited for the EU playoffs, at least the first round.
Yeah, I'm excited to see either H2K play a top team or see any of the top 3 teams, basically. I'm excited to see them play one another in any order. Other than that, we'll see what the viewership's like on Twitch.
That's
I
a good
imagine it
point.
won't be great.
Probably won't be great. Probably hovering around like the 50,000 mark or something. Yeah, not amazing for playoffs in EU, but we'll see. We could be wrong.
Could be.
I've been wrong once or twice before.
I've never been wrong.
Wow, that's very impressive. Anyways, that's all the questions for today, Eric. Wow, good
Some
questions.
Fine questions.
Again. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. So for next week, we are back to our normal schedule. We'll be on Wednesday at 2 p.m. EST to go heavy into the NALCS first round of the playoffs.
Little CLG envy, little C9 dig.
You're gonna be sick of it by the time we're done talking about it.
No, you're gonna want more, even though we've been talking about it for
like a long time.
3 hours.
But yeah, we'll go like lane by lane matchups, what to expect, predictions, of course. So it'll be good. Definitely excited to talk some playoffs.
Playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not doing that again. No, I wasn't this time. I did before.
Okay.
Failed miserably. I learned my lesson. I won't do it again.
Gotcha.
So yeah, next week on Wednesday, we're back.
Hump day.
That's right.
It's gonna be hype.
It will
and
be.
And the EU playoffs will be set. The matchups.
Wow, how are we gonna fill it all in? It's gonna be tough, Eric.
Well, we're 2 skilled individuals. We'll figure it out.
It's not saying a lot, but anyways, thank everyone for watching today. Eric, thanks for being here as always.
Of course, pleasure to be here. Pleasure to answer some great questions.
Of course. So bring up your questions next week too, and we'll hit them talking about lots of playoffs. I'm not gonna do the impression. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will see you next week.